Hey, Tom, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I'm on mute. No voice. All right, let me start again. Hello, everyone. Glad you can join us. Mute button. Tonight's title, we're talking EV tax and Victorian EV tax and the High Court challenge that's currently playing out in the courts at the moment. And to talk about that, we've got a very special guest, which we'll introduce later on. But first, our regulars. We've got Riz Akhtar from Carloop. Hey, Riz, how are we?
Hey, Tom, going well? How you doing?
Good. Very well, thanks. Sorry about the mute button. Came back from holidays last week, so yep, forgot how it all works.
Cool.
But thank you. Glad to have you there. All right, we've also got Mr. Rahul Prasad as well. Hey, Rahul, nice of you to join us.
Thanks, Tom.
And Rahul, I just want to congratulate you as well. I believe you've got some good news for us on your Model Y.
Yeah, we've got a estimate delivery date, which is the first week of August to about the 24th of August. I'm hoping it's in that first week of August. So yeah, exciting news. Model Y rear-wheel drive. Yeah, hopefully one of the first ones in Melbourne to get it. Fingers crossed.
Excellent.
Good.
That is very exciting. We're all very excited for you. That's only, what, 3 or 4 weeks away, maybe? Hopefully sooner.
Sure is. Yeah, absolutely.
Family's excited?
Too much, yeah, very much so. Yeah, I think it's something that we've been waiting for 3+ years now. You know, hey,
no.
when can we have Model Y orders open up? So here we go.
Can't believe it. Well,
It's
that's
happened
great.
fairly quickly, considering the wait time was so big.
Yeah.
Everything's just come together really quickly.
Oh, that's good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, let's get into tonight's show. So I want to introduce our next guest. That's Mr. Chris Vanderstock himself. Hello, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
Those of you who don't know, Chris is a fellow YouTuber. He's got a fantastic channel, talks about EVs and renewables, so make sure you check him out on YouTube. And I want to congratulate you, Chris, on reaching 9,000 subscribers recently.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So, yeah, get in there.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
Now, we've got you on tonight because obviously you are currently very busy and involved with a little project of yours. I shouldn't say little. It's a big project, actually. Now, we've got actually 3 Victorians on tonight as guests, Riz, Rahul, and yourself. We're all paying the EV tax currently, unfortunately, in Victoria.
Yep.
And yeah, Chris is fighting the good fight. He's brought the challenge to the High Courts, our highest court in the land in Australia, to, I guess, to challenge the EV tax in Victoria. Chris, do you want to just embellish us on, you know, first of all, what is the EV tax for those who don't know, and why have you decided to bring up the challenge?
Yeah, sure. So the EV tax was premised by Tim Pallas, he's the Treasurer for Victoria, as a tax to replace what they're calling lost revenue from fuel excise. He's always made out that basically Victoria collects fuel excise, and it's actually a federally collected tax. And the words he has been using is that fuel excise pays for roads. And if you know fuel excise, since the late 1950s, it actually hasn't paid for roads. And it just goes to consolidated revenue. There are multiple streams of fuel excise. So there's like aviation fuel, there's marine fuel, there's gas, there's distillates of different types, as well as the ones that we all know around petroleum, you know, like petrol, unleaded, diesel. And a component in that is obviously a bit of a tax. You know, the motors in Australia have a bit of a 6-month reprieve, but it's normally around 44 cents per litre, and it's indexed and it goes up biannually. And he's basically put that, well, these electric vehicle drivers, they don't fill up with fuel, so therefore they're not paying their fair share of roads, which again ignores the fact that roads not paid for through that tax. And you know, if we just talk about cars and vehicles, that actually generates around about $12 billion per year in revenue for the federal government. And the takeaway is this, is that $8 billion of that 12 actually is given back as fuel credits to the people who actually pollute the most, who have the heaviest vehicles. And the other remaining $4 billion is again just, well, let's face it, it goes to fossil fuel subsidies, of which, you know, in this last financial year, they've actually given direct $4.5 billion in direct money to try and keep oil refineries open and more. And if you look to the IEA, the International Monetary Fund rather, they actually say that in Australia, we spend more than almost $30 billion on subsidies to fossil fuel companies who don't pay their fair share of taxes. That's avoided tax from them. So anyway, let's just get that fuel excise thing out the way, because he's sold it to other legislators in Victoria in the Senate that this would actually, you know, be fair and equitable, and that if we all pay 2.5 cents per kilometre travelled for an electric vehicle, or 2 cents for a plug-in hybrid vehicle, that will go some way to actually kind of replace a similar sized vehicle. Not mentioning the fact that actually a lot of cars out there who actually use petroleum, they are more efficient than that and they pay less than that. And yeah, we've also got those fuel credits and people pay no tax whatsoever. Okay, but I diverged. And so it was passed in the Senate last year and came into law on July 1. And so then I had my rego due in December 30. July 1, mind you, in 2021, I had to do just like Riz here and Rahul. I had to do a odometer declaration. So you had 2 weeks in which to take a photograph, go to the website, type in your numbers and say, here's how many Ks I've done. And by the way, the penalty for not doing that is they could actually suspend or cancel your registration. So you could be driving around an unregistered car, and good luck with your insurance if you have an accident. So I've heard people say, "I'm not going to pay it," and it's like, yeah, don't do that. Just pay it, because I think we've got some very good grounds here to actually have this overturned. So December 30 came around, paid my registration, and then separately they sent another email a few weeks later saying, "Oh, hey, your rego's just been paid. Thanks very much. Now you got to pay your EV tax for the kilometres you have travelled." So for the typical Victorian who travels around 15,000 kilometres per year, it's only going to be about a $300 bill. But we're arguing that this tax that they have introduced, actually they don't have the constitutional ability to actually charge it. It's a consumption tax. It's a tax on kilometers that you have traveled for something that you own. And the lawyers obviously are arguing something that's very technical. And I'll explore this, expand on this later as we go through it. It's all around the definition of, is this a charge? Is this a fee? Is this a tax? Is it a consumption, monetary thing? Okay, but regardless, there's more than 8,000 electric vehicles on the roads in Victoria, and then you've got I don't know what the number is on plug-in hybrid vehicles. So Victoria is set to reap around about $30 to $40 million over a 4-year span. And again, Tim Bella says it's just to that they will be used to pay for infrastructure and to pay for roads and to pay for electric vehicle stuff. But the actual legislation in Victoria, just like the federal, it goes to central revenue. It doesn't actually go to those particular things. The Victorian government can spend the money however they see fit. So I know people who are very high milers, and they have very high tax bills because of this tax. And then in July this year, they've increased it by 4%. So it's now at 2.6 cents per kilometre for electric vehicles and 2.1 cent for plug-in hybrid vehicles. And we also need to appreciate here, and I'm so sorry to people who taken that next step. They're not only paying for petrol and the very expensive cost of petrol, which has also got fuel excise on it, but they're also paying this tax as well. So they're getting double whammied here. So we're basically taken to the High Court of Australia that Victoria doesn't actually have that constitutional right to charge this tax. And we're pretty confident that it will be overturned. And, just talking to the principles behind, electric vehicles and why they're good for us and how we can actually separate ourselves from fossil fuel industries, and the money that we actually throw to those companies and give them free kicks and not paying taxes, we could save a lot of money just on that alone. We could save a lot of money on the health benefits that come with going electric. There's cleaner air, there's no particulate matter in the air, especially as the grid becomes more renewably rich. And the same can't be said for petrol cars. The more you drive a petrol car, the more you pollute, the more you damage. And that damage actually happens at a cellular level, gets into your lungs, permeates through into the body, into your brain cells, does damage. And as we all know, more than I believe it's about 3,000 people per year have deaths associated with pollution. And we've got, potentially there like $18 billion per year that we spend on healthcare for asthma, for lung disease, for cerebral vascular disease, you name it. There is a lot of reasons that we should all be getting away from petrol and diesel, especially. Diesel's the worst one. And this idea that we're not paying our fair share of taxes, oh my gosh, the number of times I've been on forums, and I try not to get involved with them because I'm obviously on the plaintiff. And it's like, look, even a person who doesn't drive a car pays for roads. If you pay income tax, you pay for roads. You pay council rates, you pay for roads. In fact, 90% of our road infrastructure is paid for by councils, not by the federal government, not by state government, but by local councils. So anyway, I'm getting off the topic. Anyway, that was a basic introduction.
No, thank you, Chris. That's a great summary. Look, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's a pooled revenue from tax. It's not so much the fuel levies paying for the roads. It's it's going to everywhere, and it's like you said. Hopefully this will be overturned by your good self. And I believe another EV driver as well, Kath Davies, is on your team.
Davies, yep. So she's representing the plug-in hybrid vehicle owners, and she drives. She's actually got a few electric cars, to be honest. So she's got, I think it's a RAV4 from memory. Apologies, Kathy, you're watching. Might be wrong about that. Oh no, she's got a BMW Rex model. So with a range extender. So it's got a little battery, and it's got the petrol motor that runs to keep that battery at a certain state. And so yeah, that's what she's got.
Yep, perfect. And look, you also touched on the health benefits. You know, I know you're a healthcare worker, and I'm 100% with you on that. There's health benefits are 100% there, and that should certainly be explored by our governments for sure. Before we keep going with this, I want to just touch on tonight's poll. If you're watching live, make sure you vote tonight. Question tonight is, when is a distance-based electric vehicle road levy appropriate? 4 options: now, when EVs are greater than 25% of new car sales, when EVs are greater than 50% of new car sales, and never. So make sure you get in there, vote. We've got 151 votes already. It looks like never is winning with 52% of the votes. And 4% of you are saying now. What's going on? Come on. Surely that's not good now. We've got, 2%? Riz, is that right? 2% new car sales currently?
Yeah, last year less than 2%.
Yeah.
This year, optimistically speaking, we might get to 3.2%.
Yep, so early days yet. So yeah, tonight's question too is, will an EV tax affect adoption in Australia in 2022? I mean, bit of a no-brainer for me, but leave your comments below in the live chat there. So Chris, you said the lawyers are exploring different options. Do you know what the main avenue they're going down currently is?
Yeah, sure. So look, maybe it's probably a good idea that I give a bit of a history, a bit of the background behind the scenes within Reason. Appreciating that I've got legal privilege, so I can't divulge everything, but I'll do my best to do a high-level summary here for stuff that's public accessible. Look, when we lodged the case with the High Court of Australia, it wasn't very soon after that New South Wales, then Queensland, they all put their hands up and they said, we're going to support Victoria, the Victorian government, as the defendants, as interveners. And that is to say that they actually can actually come in and have some time in court if they wish to actually say, we say this tax is legit, we're supporting it, and it's fair and reasonable. And this part of the law allows us to do this. And so we weren't, I think, surprised by this because we already knew New South Wales has got a potential, EV tax coming up in 2027 or 30%, whichever comes first, yeah. But Queensland was one of the ones that we didn't, we knew it was going to come, but that was the second state, I think, to actually put their hand up. Then after that, very quickly, Western Australia came on board, and then South Australia, and then Tasmania. And so essentially we've got all the states of Australia who actually are interveners supporting Victoria in this legislation. And they're, again, all arguing that, well, we're all poor here and, it's a monetary thing and we can charge this tax, whatever you want to call it. And, the federal government should just keep out of it. And that's basically Tim Pallas's own words, like, you keep your hands off our money. And so the lawyers have been having twos and fro's between Victoria and ourselves, debating every little line of legislation in the Act. And it all comes together in 2 different ways. One was there was basically an exchange of, the principles behind it as to the bits of law that they were going to argue. And then the High Court said, okay, kids, sit down, work it out, and then come back to us when you've got a better agreement here, because you're basically, you're not fighting like kids, but it's kind of like, here are your orders, and you need to actually decide upon what you're going to be asking us to decide upon in the High Court of Australia. So then a few months later, and basically up until 6 months of this time frame, we've had this special case, and that's where they've actually, literally, the documents are fun to read, not whereby they're debating a word, and they're like, or they would cite some law and they'd say, well, in this case, blah, 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 this means this, and blah, 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 this means that. And then Victoria would counter that. And so they've got some agreement on some things, and they've got disagreement on other things. But fundamental to it all is under the Constitution that this tax, this consumption, actually sits with the federal government. And we're comfortable, we're happy that we've got a really rock solid case here. In that back in the 1990s, there was an omnibus hearing by the High Court of Australia in Ha versus New South Wales. And that was 3 different things. That was fishing licenses, alcohol, and cigarettes. And back in the 1990s, New South Wales actually taxed people to use them, to consume them. And the High Court of Australia said, under the same bit of law that we're arguing, that no, you can't actually charge those taxes. New South Wales, stop it. And so they had to stop that. And that's why, federally, you've got now a nicotine tax, you've got an alcohol tax, you get the idea.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, after all these interveners came on board and we had our federal election, just a few weeks ago, we were notified by the Attorney General that the Solicitor General on behalf of the federal government was going to intervene on our behalf. And that's to say that they're supporting our argument that, again, this is something that federally can be done, but not at state level. And so that's giving us even more reassurance that we're definitely got something here that we're very confident it's going to be like a winner.
Yeah. And I'm seeing too now that the federal or the new Labor government is stepping in and saying that it's we're not going to back this tax. I mean, how much is that? Is that a good thing? How much sway have they got in this case?
No, they've got no sway. So at the end of the day, the Solicitor Generals for each state, they'll be going with their barristers, just like us, to the High Court of Australia to argue the what is and what is not. We understand there'll be probably 2 days of hearing, and it's all about that one sentence within the Constitution. And when it's all said and done, the argument's put forward by whoever wants to put their hand up. So any of the interveners. So any of the states can actually go up there and say, here's where we say we should be able to charge this tax. We actually think that having the federal guys on our side is a good thing. I think your question before as to what is fair, what percentage of the road users should be. And look, if you ask me right now, it's not the time. We're early adopters, most of us here. We've all got electric vehicles, and we all know the benefits of them. And we also know the benefits of removing, pulling away from fossil fuel industry. And we'll be a much richer, better nation in every way, shape, and form, from our health to monetary and more. And the quicker we do that, the better. So, I think this federal government is probably not the government to actually start doing a road user charge. But who knows? But nonetheless, it's poor policy, because this tax, if you're a Victorian, and this is how it could work in your own state. So let's say for New South Wales or in Western Australia, where they've also got this tax on the horizon now that's actually been legislated and passed. You travel out of state with your car, you're paying for a tax that's supposedly for roads in Victoria, but you're actually traveling interstate. And so if you do that lovely around Australia trip, all that journey, all that damage to roads, all that wear and tear we're supposed to not be paying for, but we are paying for, it's all going back to Victoria. And there's no discount for that. So whenever we travel on private roads, such as toll roads, or people who are on farms and they've got large properties, you can't actually get exemptions for that. Well, you could with the private roads one, but good luck arguing it. I've heard people actually say they've actually submitted to VicRoads saying that I do this many kilometers every day. I might have a very long driveway, and I visit my neighbor who's down the road. And, these people have got 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer driveways. Yeah. And they've actually submitted to the VicRoads saying that I don't have to pay this many kilometers. I'm like, well, where's the evidence? And it's like, wow, okay. Shall we talk about evidence? This is a good segue, Tom, because the next bit's a fun one in that, July 1 this year, when they had that increase, VicRoads did not ask any electric vehicle owner for a census as to, well, how many kilometers did you do up to June 30? And moving forward, because there's a price rise in the legislation, who was it? The treasurer? No, the secretary. The secretary can actually decide as to, if it's a pro rata rate or if it's going to be averaged or whatever. And so it's kind of ironic that we're being charged per kilometer, this amount of money. But when it comes due next time, we're going to be roughly rounded. And if, let's say, this is my argument, that I go on holiday now, I go overseas and leave my car at home. When I get my tax bill by December 30, because that's when my rego's due, I'm going to get averaged over the year, despite me being away from the country for 6 months. Not that I'm doing that. I'd love to do that, but I'm not doing that. It's nonsensical, and it's not very good legislation. It doesn't have any concessions in there. People who live in the countryside, who do the most kilometers, are going to be paying through the nose for this. And yeah, it really de-incentivizes people to electric vehicles. And the Australian Institute, they actually did a bit of a poll, a bit of a survey back last year in 2021, and they asked people, if you had to pay this tax, would it actually discourage you from buying an electric vehicle? And more than 60% of respondents said, yes, it would. I would not want to get an electric vehicle because I don't want to pay that tax.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's not the time to be charging an electric vehicle tax. And there's other ways to do it. There's smarter, better ways, but you can bring those up.
Riz, you had a comment?
Yeah, I guess really good points, Chris. And, I think a bit of context with the kind of work I do, I regularly deal with all state roads of transport departments. And there's been some analysis that I've been trying to do on this tax, more along the lines of, are EV owners traveling more per year than ICE drivers? Because then that could paint a good story around, hey, the myths are that EV drivers don't drive a lot because their batteries won't last very much. And we want to try and debunk all of those myths to encourage EV uptake. It's been nearly 8 months, and I've tried so many different pathways to try and get access to even just, don't want anyone's private details, but just an idea. Is it 10,000 kilometers? Is it 15,000? Is it 20,000? They don't know. They don't know the data that they're collecting. They don't know how many kilometers we're traveling, even though they're charging us for it. And it's interesting to see. And then one of the recent sort of comments I heard was around, hey, it's because there's a legal challenge going on, so we can't give you this information. And I'm like, really, guys? Really? Like, I just want to know what the average Victorian EV driver is driving, and we can't find that out. So I guess the reality is they don't know what systems it's going into. They don't know how they can extract that information. They don't know. It would be interesting to see, Chris, how they present it, because surely there'll be some evidence to say, this is how much we've collected, this is what it is, when we've had the tax increase to 2.5 to 2.6 cents. What is it actually, what are we going to do? Are we going to bill people from last year, or how is that going to be impacted? So it has impacted on the EV uptake in Victoria. Queensland has just ticked over 10,000 EVs up there, and that's without a subsidy. The subsidies just come in earlier this month, and that won't include Teslas, which 90% of Victorian subsidies, the $3,000 that the government's been offering since May last year, have been on a Tesla Model 3. Not a bad thing, but even without those subsidies, Queenslanders have, gone well and beyond and have sort of exceeded that 10,000 EVs mark. And with subsidies, it's only going to look better. So it'd be interesting to see why and how they will support the Victorian government when it comes to fighting this, to keep this tax. So good work, Chris. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, great work, Chris. I want to quickly just thank you, Gaffer, for a $5 pledge here. Stop paying subsidies to the fossil fuel mafia and direct that money to roads. Chris, you're getting a lot of support in the live chat there. I'm just reading through as you were talking there, so looks like all of us are pretty much on your side. And I guess I want to quickly shout out to, obviously, the legal costs are mounting up. How can we support you, in this fight?
Sure. I'll leave you a link, Tom, to our Chuffed Fund, and that's helping to obviously pay for our lawyers and barristers, who obviously are not cheap. Appreciate if anyone could actually help in that way. And also, look, if you can't do that, then just raise awareness. You don't have to drive an electric vehicle to actually know that that's the next generation of car that you maybe will buy. And when you've got something that is a real stick to actually ownership and a real barrier, this is again poor policy, poor legislation, and something that the Victorian government should be actually not doing, which is really ironic because they're actually doing a lot in the renewable energy space, and this is counter to that. And when emissions make up more than 20% of our from vehicles. Vehicle emissions make up more than 20% of what we breathe in, and so our CO2 footprint. And just by shifting over to electrification, we're going to be so much better off.
Yeah.
And the government, they know that. They know that. They believe they've got a potential cash cow that's coming their way. It's like
Absolutely. Well, I think someone said that earlier too. It's a cash grab. It's what the tax is. They're planning for the future. I mean, look, as obviously as a New South Wales resident, we are looking very closely at your case because, as you said earlier, we are looking at a tax in 2027 or whenever 30% of new car sales are EVs, so whichever comes first. And it's going to be very similarly priced as well, 2.5 cents per kilometre. So we're hoping you guys will set a precedent for us. So thank you for doing all the legwork, I guess. We're all behind you. I guess I want to ask you, Chris, I mean, looking at the poll now, we've got 6% of people saying the tax should be implemented now, but majority are saying never, and I guess the others are sort of in between. I mean, do you agree with the tax in as a principle, and if so, when should that come in? At what percentage of new car EV sales should that come in?
Yeah, it's a complicated one, and I got to say, right now, and I think I could only speak to this next 3-5 year window. There shouldn't be a tax. We're early adopters. We're not Norway. We're more than 100% behind realistically in percentile terms compared to the next country. I forget what country that is, but basically Britain, Norway, even America they're in front of us, and it's kind of embarrassing that we're laggards in this area. So I think we should look to New Zealand and what they're doing with the fee-based system, whereby they're actually I think it's a distance charge system. It's for all drivers, not just electric vehicle drivers. It is affected by the weight of your vehicle and the size of your engine. So therefore, if you've got a big, massive chunker of a car that's V8 spewing out diesel particulate matter into the air, you're going to be paying up to $3,000 per year for that car. And then what the New Zealand government does is they go, hey, go buy a new electric vehicle, and hey, we'll give you $3,000 towards that purchase. So for the New Zealand government, it's cost neutral, doesn't affect the coppers whatsoever. And it's going to therefore make electric cars cheaper for people to buy, and makes the petrol cars more expensive to buy. And so it's a nice little equilibrium. And this is how we've got to encourage people out of those cars, because I talked to this many times on my channel that if you can afford a $50,000 car, you should be buying electric. You're mad. You're absolutely mad if you buy a petrol car. And whenever someone asks me for advice at work, because they know that I'm that guy on YouTube, it's like that's the first question I ask, and it's like, well, if you can do that, you've got to go buy yourself the BYD, MGZS, secondhand Kona, you name it. And before long, when we're getting all these government fleets that are starting up now, great. In 2 to 3 years' time, there'll be secondhand cars and they'll be affordable. And just now's not the time for a road user tax on electric vehicles. We should be encouraging people into it.
Yep, no, I agree. And you touched on a point about weight-based versus emissions-based, because I will talk about this later on with everyone, with Canberra, or the ACT government, introducing a pretty good EV policy as well. So we'll talk about that. And they're also planning to incentivize emissions rather than, not penalizing based on weight, but incentivizing emissions-based vehicles that are greener in that sense. So Chris, thank you again. We're supporting you. Are you happy to stay around while we discuss other news in the EV and renewable space tonight? Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on a bit to. Let's put this on for a sec. There we go. All right. So Riz, I might just get you to chat about. Riz showed us some pictures this week as we were planning for tonight's show. He showed us some pictures of EV charging stations in the UK. I mean, to me, this is amazing. This is just gorgeous. These pictures coming out of the UK, a new EV charger install. Where's this again?
This is, I believe, not far from London. I'll have to double check the exact location. It's not in sort of London CBD type of area. It's a bit out. But I'll confirm that and I'll share it next time. It's really interesting. Now, just put it on the record, Tom, they are the hyperchargers. Ampol were supposed to install, but it didn't happen because they've got an ABB unit that you've gone out and had a look at, which is also rated, or they claim it's 150 kilowatts.
Yep.
So this is, really, really cool. The layout, it looks like they've really thought about, the amenities, having canopies above it, clearly marked, easy to spot from a signage point of view. They've sort of painted EVs everywhere they possibly can to make sure that it doesn't get iced, which will probably still happen anyway. They've got a little car wash, as you can see in the background there.
Beautiful.
I think they could have probably picked a better word for instead of a jet wash, they could have picked a bit more of an EV related pun. I'm sure our community in the comments would come up with something.
Surely.
It's really, really cool to see what we have to look forward to as we move away from traditional sort of, petrol station charging sites to more of hubs as that EV uptake that we spoke about a couple of times in the discussions with Chris sort of gets up to 5, 10, 15% mark. UK at the moment is sitting at every month so far this year, they're sort of around 14 to 16% of all new registrations are EVs.
Amazing. And look, those of you who have seen my videos recently to the Gold Coast, I started a DC charging scoring system, and looking at these pictures, I mean, this would score pretty highly in my books. I'm not seeing a lounge somewhere, but if that had a lounge, that would be gold standard for me. It's just sitting there while your car's charging. So yeah, this is what we've got to aspire to in Australia. So yeah, thanks Riz for sharing that. And I want to just thank Paul again for another pledge there. Paul is saying, if the ACT is going to charge registration according to emissions, is that constitutional? So we might get to that later on in the show when we talk about the ACT's new policy. So yeah, good question though. So Riz is always talking about charts. He loves his charts, and we're going to put some of Riz's charts on right now. Segment is Off the Charts with Riz from Carloop. So Riz, your first chart is this one.
Cool. So this is sort of around what I believe we're going to get over the next, this half of the year from BYD into Australia after some of the recent delays that we've seen, and then them pushing out the standard model out a little bit further. Given production will start in October, we'll probably won't see them till December, January. I really hope we do better than this. And, once the first set of deliveries come through, hopefully we'll get to over 3,000 BYD Atto 3s, which is, probably the most affordable ground up EV that we'll have available this year. So I'm really hoping it's more than that, but at the moment I sort of feel we're going to get around 2,500 cars by the end of the year, which would still be quite a significant sort of, chunk of the EV sales. I hope we'll get up to 30,000 EVs this year. And if that happens, then that would be 10% of all EV sales from a brand none of us have really test driven before yet.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I know EV Direct have promised 1,500 cars per month. Obviously, that's been delayed, but I think they've doubled down and said 3,000 cars a month very recently. So, hey, if we can get that, I'm happy days.
Hopefully.
I'll be all for that. I want to thank Ray in the chat for pledging $10 there. Thank you, Ray. Says passenger plug-in market share of total new car sales is 2.4% as of 2021 in Australia and New Zealand. In Australia, and in New Zealand, it's 5.5%, and USA is 4%. So, yes, we are lagging behind our counterparts there. Thank you, Ray. Chart, this one, Riz, this chart here. Interesting.
Cool. So this is for pretty much anyone that has ordered a Model Y. Rahul, Tom,
Chris?
Chris Will. Yeah, awesome. So anyone that's ordered a Model Y, and let's say you're currently driving a Model 3, it sort of shows the used car ads for the Tesla Model 3 over the year that we've seen. And since the launch of Model Y, we've had sort of, what is it? It's gone up from about 90 to nearly 270, 250 something there. So it's nearly threefold since the launch of Model Y. So it's there'll be a lot more that will be coming up. So it seems to be every weekend people get some time. They decide to take nice photos and chuck their car on car sales and other classified sort of platforms. So we're starting to see this uptake trend, and I'll sort of monitor it till we sort of get the Model Y performances in the later end of this year, just to see what that looks like. But yeah, the amount of listings, people that were happy with the Model 3s that are now just waiting for the new Model Y to arrive, as that estimate delivery date, like Rahul gets closer, there would be more of a chance that people will be listing shortly. The prices, though, are not reflecting the increase in supply. So the more used Tesla Model 3s that are listed, the prices are still fairly high. But I feel that once we get new Model 3s being delivered, as well as the Model Ys, by the end of the year, the prices should stabilize. And that will start to be a little bit more affordable for those looking for a used Model 3.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I mean, this is good, right? New EVs coming to the country, floods the used car market. People get used EVs. This is the grand plan. All right, thank you, Riz. Let's have a look at this one. I think Rahul, you might have shared this one this week. What's this one? Countries where fully electric cars make up more than 5% of new vehicles. There you go. Australia is not on that list, unfortunately.
No surprises there.
I was going to say no surprises there. Yeah.
No. But who's winning? Sweden, Norway, yeah. Big players.
Norway,
Iceland, yeah.
Sweden,
Amazing.
Ireland. Yeah,
Ireland, 13%.
yeah.
Come on,
Where's the UK?
5.3. We can aim for that, surely. 4.2, Italy.
Mm.
I want to see us
I
on that
think
list next year.
behind that is escalating fuel prices. So people are like, I can't handle this petrol price anymore. Let's go electric.
Yeah, I had a tinge of, Schadenfreude sitting today at the Ampol charger getting a free charge because they're trialing these amp charge chargers and these big dudes are filling up $2 a litre. Yeah, I felt good. It's not always going to be free, I know, but it felt good today. Let's have a look at this one. So, top 30 best-selling car groups globally in 2021. Riz, I think you shared this one. Tesla is now number 19, I can see there.
How good is that? Like, that's... I was looking at the cars the number of cars they've produced in the last year. So quarter 3, quarter 4, 21, and quarter 1, quarter 2 this year, they've produced more than 1 million cars in the last 4 quarters. This is sort of focusing on 2021. And since then, production has ramped up across several sites as well. So this year, 2022, they're probably going to be sitting above Great Wall Motors, around 1.5 million cars produced, 1.4 to 1.5 million cars produced this year. And then I think it's only going to be going up from there as Giga Austin and Giga Berlin sort of ramp up production as well. So very exciting to see, I guess the pioneers in the EV revolution in some ways, making electric cars attractive to most people. Them doing well is great. And I'm hoping also by the end of this year, the prices on the Model 3s in particular start to come down a little bit as well, which Elon has hinted a little bit in the last couple of days around when inflation eases, they'll start to potentially reduce the prices back to sort of where they were. So it's only looking good from Tesla's point of view.
Yeah, it's good. Very good. Well, speaking of Tesla, let's focus on this segment now. Tesla news. A few things to chat about this week. We'll whip through some of the headlines. So Tesla now no longer includes the Universal Mobile Connector with new orders in Australia. That was news 2 weeks ago, which is disappointing, I think, personally. It's a big country. We do use our UMC quite a bit, actually, on road trips. But there is a price drop for the mobile connector. It's now $550, I think, and a small drop for the Gen 3 wall connector as well to help compensate, I guess. But it won't affect it won't affect previous orders. So Rahul, I think your car will be fine. You should get a connector. And I guess Chris, yours.
Thank God for that. Plug into a 240 volt PowerPoint anywhere.
Exactly. Fuel stations everywhere, anywhere you can see. No, it's good, but yeah, it's I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Is that a good move by Tesla doing that, or?
No, it's a bad move. And like you say, Tom, it's a big country, and whenever you're out and about, you should just carry it anyway. I've seen comments from people saying, "Oh, I don't ever use it," and it's like, yeah, great, you've got a wall charger at home, awesome, but not everyone has that ability. We've only recently installed one in our place. But then, yeah, I've been caught out. Well, not caught out, nearly caught out on 2 occasions with the MG. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to stop and pull over and knock on someone's door and ask for a bit of an hour's charge so I can get range to go somewhere to charge,
That's right.
And
So they'll go, it's Chris Vanderstock, of course.
Nah. Anyway, no, I think it's a poor move by Tesla. And, they've looked at the stats, and the stats, the quote that everyone cites is for Elon talking about the American market, where they got 110 outlets. And, some people over there still actually use the dryer socket. It's actually got a higher amperage, like 240 volts and, I don't know, 15 amps. Again, it's nonsensical. It's an electric car. How are you gonna move that car without plugging it in somewhere?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll get my soapbox.
No, not at all. I agree with you 100%. Let's move on to another bit of news that was interesting this week. Was that here we go. I'm going to mispronounce his name, but I think it's Andrej Karpathy. So he has been the head of AI and autopilot in Tesla for the last 5 years, and he is parting ways with the company. So I think, the last 5 years we've seen a huge improvement in the autopilot, and now FSD Beta, of course, in America. Big loss is for Tesla.
Seems that way, I think. But I guess, the other way I sort of look at it, it's probably in some ways good to see the amount of work that Andrej's done in getting the full self-driving beta up to where it is. And we can only sort of look at videos and the way some of the testers are using it in the States and how it's improving and their commentary around it. So it's really awesome to see. It is a bit of a loss, but I think one thing that's sort of sometimes understated around Tesla is the amount of work and they do in recruiting some of the smartest people out there.
Yep.
So if, looking at some of the expos, the AI day that they'll be holding again, a lot of it is around attracting the best AI talent in the world. So it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, they'll have, backup plans and others that can take on that role. And the team, I believe, is very talented. So it'd be, might be a bit of fresh breath of air for the autopilot team to work on some projects. He was on a sabbatical for a couple of months, I believe, already. So there was someone obviously running the show there. So it seems to be that, he wants to pursue his passions around going back to teaching and doing other things that I think are going to, hopefully create future head of AI at Tesla.
Yeah.
So it's good thing that whatever he's learned, he's gone out there to teach young people again about these technologies and the way they're developed and the neural nets and stuff. So it'd be exciting to see. One other thing that I sort of note around, Tesla rarely brings out the Cybertruck out to anything. And some of the recent sightings have been at locations where they're either attending an expo where there is machine learning and AI future engineers and others out there, just to inspire them to see these are the cool products that you'll be working on if you work with Tesla and the AI team. So they've been doing a lot of that stuff. The recruitment drive in the background is huge because they want to attract the best talent to build the best AI, real world AI, as Elon stated. So a bit of a loss, but I also think it's a bit of an opportunity for Tesla's AI team.
Yeah, nice way to put it. Next bit of news is that so Tesla has now delivered 2.9 million vehicles since 2012. I think Rahul brought this to my attention. So yeah, that's huge. Like 2.9 million vehicles in 10 years. Amazing.
And I think I saw a tweet from Elon as well that Sawyer Merritt retweeted, where he said he's got a chance, or Tesla's got a chance at a run rate of 40,000 vehicles per week towards the end of the year, which would mean that they would be making 2 million cars, if not more, by the end of the year,
Wow.
amongst all of their factories.
Unbelievable. That's huge. Surely at number 19 in 2021, top 10 maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Now we learned recently that Shanghai Gigafactory paused production for a while to upgrade its facilities, and oh, here we go. That's sorry, this is Elon's tweet. Yes, so Fremont, Nevada, making the 2 millionth car. Yeah, impressive. Just in the US alone. So Sawyer Merritt again, record 7,000 Model Ys and 3 spotted in Shanghai's Luqiao port, ready to
I
be
think I see
exported.
Rahul's car there.
Oh, there it is right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Might need to just zoom in a bit more and have a few drone shots in there as well, and just make sure that is ours.
Should have gone to Specsavers. I can see all of it.
I think mine's here somewhere too. Special one. Yeah, so yes, Shanghai's back in production, right, Riz, I believe. All good to go. Increased capacity, so, you know, I mean, my performance is due in November. Any chance it can come any sooner, Riz?
I'm yet to hear any reports on local Model Y performance customers or order holders saying that they've received anything. The family friend that I've got, still no updates on his front as well. So I think they weren't sure how long this upgrade was going to be to the factory. But from what I understand, most of it is done already. So it'd be interesting to see the production numbers at the end of this month, which will probably come in the second week of next month. They'll show the real impact of production at Giga Shanghai. So they'll be from China's Passenger Car Association. They will confirm what actually happened. But I think, yeah, they should be pretty much ramping at full production and doing much more than what they were doing before the shutdown. So Model Y performances, they'll be making lots and lots of them over the coming months for the export markets.
Fingers crossed. Sooner than November. I'm hanging out for it. Yeah, so this is another bit of news here. Let's look at what Model Y is doing to its competitors in China. So yes, it's blowing them out of the water. Model Y, 189% year on year. Next best is Mercedes, dropping down, Audi down, BMW down. So yeah, good to see there. It's filling its domestic demand already in China. It's good. Okay, so actually, I'll talk about that in a second. That's the drive day NRMA is doing in New South Wales. But I want to just move on to BYD news just briefly. BYD is probably quite interesting in the next few months as we await the first fleet of BYD Atto 3s into Australia. We are seeing news that they've landed in Auckland, New Zealand. Yeah, so we did kind of break that 2 weeks ago on Ludicrous Feed live that
Yes.
that New Zealand's getting some, well, I shouldn't say some of our cars, but they were getting cars. I shouldn't start a war here, but some cars have landed in Auckland, New Zealand that are Atto 3s, and we are seeing reviews coming out of New Zealand as well. So this one's a good one. This is by Richard from the YouTube channel EVs and Beyond. Great reviews, so make sure you check that one out. 31,000 views already, but really worth watching. He walks around the Model Y, the BYD Atto 3, and does a very good first look, so check that one out. And there's one from Singapore as well, so SG Carmart, also about 30,000 views. Yeah, it's essentially the same sort of right-hand drive production. Chris, did you ever consider a BYD for yourself and your family?
No. You know, I've only ever seen, like, in the flesh one BYD, or no, two BYDs. And after my experience with the MG ZS EV, which is a good car, don't get me wrong, cheap and cheerful, it's didn't interest me. So
okay, fair enough. Yeah, look, I've seen it in the flesh. Looks good. I think it'll do well. You know, it's good value for money. And yeah, for those who don't want to pay 70, 80 grand for an EV, then paying 50 grand gets you a very smart EV indeed in BYD. Also, there we go, pictures of the BYD again. And BYD order holders also received this week. So news that there will be opening new experience centers around the country. So there's only one currently in Darlinghurst in Sydney, which is the one I visited earlier this year. But in New South Wales, we've got ones opening in Sutherland, Castle Hill, Cardiff. Cardiff's kind of more towards Newcastle. Castle Hill's out in the northwest. Sutherland is in the south. And for you Victorians, you're getting one in Dandenong and Brooklyn. I don't know where they are. Are they good locations to be putting showrooms?
In a rest for Brooklyn, I think.
Dandenong's a bit far out, to be honest.
I think from a Dandenong point of view, so I'm sort of a dandy boy, so I know this area. It's pretty the growth, and I think the kind of the demographic of people that they'd be targeting these affordable ground up EVs, it would sort of fit in, and it's a pretty large sort of area as well. So yes, southeast and inner west in Victoria.
Okay, cool. And then Queenslanders Indooroopilly and Robina. Robina's in the Gold Coast.
Yep.
And Western Australia, West Perth, one in Canberra, that's good. I think we'll do well in Canberra with all their incentives. And one in Hobart. So excellent. Good. City EV saying, why no love in Western Sydney? I agree, actually. Probably should put, well, Castle Hill's kind of northwest, so. But yeah, maybe one towards Penrith out your way there, Rob. So yeah, good question. We've got question from Sensei. Question for all four on the panel. Thoughts on the videos Gold Coast YouTuber Heads of Tech has made lately that shows Tesla EVs inside have an above average EMF reading? Okay. That's interesting. Anyone thoughts, gents?
I haven't seen that myself, and I'm not very sure as to the impact. So yeah, I don't know.
Good question though. Yep, have to do more research on that one. Also, BYD order holders got this email this week as well, which I found quite interesting. Sorry about the small text, but basically the gist is they're saying that if you want to convert your Atto 3 standard range order to an extended range order, you will keep your place in the queue. So this person, Fiona, got this email this week, and yeah, keep the place in the queue. I think extra $3,000. I read something about $3,000. That's all they've got to pay to bump it up to ER. I guess if this comes to fruition, to me, it's a no-brainer. I'd bump it up and keep my place in the queue, get the car sooner. Sounds like a good deal to me, if that is true. It's good. Okay, so that is BYD news. That's good. And let's go into other news now. So, clicking the wrong thing. There we go. Other news. So, yeah, I guess the big one we were talking about earlier, actually, is the ACT. The ACT is now banning all new ICE car sales from 2035 onward, which sounds pretty good to me. Very ambitious indeed. That's probably the first jurisdiction, I think, in Australia to set some sort of target like that, if I'm not mistaken. I briefly considered moving to the ACT when I saw that article. I don't know about you guys. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, do you reckon other states will follow suit? Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland?
I hope so. I really hope so. Because, I mean, look, let's face it, ACT is a little tiny 90-kilometre square sort of thing, isn't it? It's tiny. Not a lot of people live there. Most people commute into there and get out of there. Not saying anything against Canberra. I love the place. But, yeah, what's to stop you from going, if you're a petrol-loving person, just across the border, paying the extra money to get the transfer registration after you've, you go get your favourite V8. It's like people who live on Albury-Wodonga on the border with the EV tax. Would you be sensible to actually have a residence over the border?
Yeah. Or rent out an address, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I think New South Wales really has to follow suit, given that we basically surround the ACT. For that reason, Chris, you mentioned, EV refugees. Well, the other way around. ICE refugees.
What's trending on that Driven article? To the right, there's trending post. How to save thousands.
Oh, look at that.
Oh no, who's that guy?
Who is that guy?
I know that guy.
I don't know who he is either. Yeah, he talks a lot.
He talks a lot of sense, actually, I think.
Yeah,
that's good. Famous. Yeah, so 95% are light vehicles. Yep, makes sense. I was going to put up, hang on, where's Sid EVs? No, it was Charles. Oh, I've lost it. But Charles was saying that he wanted to say that the AEVA conference is coming up in Canberra very soon. So we'll chat about that maybe another week. But thank you. Here we go. Charles says, perhaps we'll hear more about the ACT news at the AEVA Expo in Canberra from August 5 to 7. So a bit of a plug there for the Australian Electric Vehicle Association.
I'll be there.
Oh, good.
Yep, I'll be convening 2 panels.
Excellent. I think this news probably deserves a live stream by itself. So I might maybe consider doing that next week. This is big news because there was an extra bit of policy mention as well. Where is it? Here we go. 17 key points. The big one was where was it? Emissions based rather than weight based. I think. Let's see if I can find it. It's one of these ones for Rego. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that probably next week. Cool. So yeah, Chris, you'll be on the panels. Excellent. That's good to hear. So those of you who go in Canberra or thinking about going there, you'll see the one and only Chris on one of the panels. Great incentive to go, personally. Let's put this one on. This drive that I had on earlier. Where was it? I lose it. This one. Okay, so EV Drive Days coming to locations in New South Wales. I'll try and be there this weekend in Sydney. Join us for food, activities, and expert talks about all things EVs. There you go. So if you are keen, you want to get yourself into an EV, then that's on offer this weekend in Sydney. I was going to talk about the AmpCharge charger spotted. I spotted it today too, so make sure you check that video out too of mine if you want to have a look. I think that's the future, putting them in petrol stations. Like they're kind of already kitted out for, conveniences, bathrooms, all that stuff. So I think that's the way to go. Moving forward, and I want to thank Jez. Jez, thank you very much for a pledge. Tom, have I missed the 42 Tesla Garage 4 video? Not yet, Jez. I promise I will release that soon. So thank you for the 420 pledge. Jez, right on the money there. Appreciate it. And very quickly, where is it? I'm losing all my... Here we go. So Toyota's class action, $2 billion for customers over faulty diesel particulate filters. So Toyota being naughty there with their filters. Not doing the job. It's a shame, really. And one more bit of news, I think. Here we go. Porsche is planning to introduce a high-end electric SUV like the Macan to complement the Taycan. So that's good. Good news for Porsche fans. Any of you gents driven a Taycan?
I have.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice ride.
I haven't. I've seen one. They look amazing.
They do look good, actually. Gotta say.
They're very, very cool. One thing that's interesting, and I think Chris will probably share this as well, with the Taycan, you sort of, Tesla, we're sort of used to one pedal driving. When you take your foot off the accelerator, the regeneration comes on. With the Taycan, you actually have to apply the brake to enable regeneration. So it feels more like a conventional car than, let's say, the one pedal driving that we're used to. So it's supposed to be helpful for people transitioning from a humble, affordable 911 to a Taycan. That's who it's supposed to be for.
To a non-affordable Porsche.
To a non-affordable Porsche Taycan. But yeah, no, nice cars for those that like Porsches. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So it's got a fun launch mode and or like a track mode rather. They call it track mode, and too many screens. I like controls. I like direct controls, and the Porsche just was overwhelming. It was like 4 screens. Yeah, 4 screens. It was ridiculous. The haptic feedback was awesome. Tesla, do that. Haptic feedback. So when you attach the screen, it actually locates it. It's magical how it does it.
Yeah. Yep. You can actually pay more for a passenger side screen too. I think another $4,000 or something. So there you go. Optional. I when I test drove it, I used the augmented sound, the vroom vroom.
Oh
in the back.
yes.
Yeah. It was okay.
Just that's a no, Tom.
Yeah. It was trending towards no.
Yeah.
I can see why they do it. Some people miss that noise, but yeah, I'm happy with the silence personally.
Just a quick little data point. They've sold 307 Taycans this year so far. I wonder what that number would look like if the Model S was available.
Good point.
Okay.
Great point.
Good point.
Yeah.
307. What about is that year-on-year increase or?
I think it's roughly a little bit above what it was last year. I think last year they sold 500 and something or 600, but this year they've sort of halfway point. They've sold 307, I believe, and it's not bad. Look, like I said, I think it's a good car. I've just sometimes wonder how many, like the Model 3s are going up for sale. How many will go up for sale when the Model S's start deliveries?
Yep.
In Australia, so. Yeah.
I also want to. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry, Tom. Gaffer actually called out there that people, this Drive story.
Yeah, this is the one I was going to talk about too, so perfect. Go ahead.
There you go. Go for it.
Great minds. No, you go.
Well, just that, supposedly, a few months ago, Tesla removed the put your deposit down, reservation rather, for the Tesla Cybertruck. And now they're actually saying that people are actually getting refunds. They're refunding the deposits rather. So that's kind of, I think, disappointing news for people who actually want it out here. I'm just reading it, so I'm catching up.
I think people have told me on Twitter that they're not so much as cancelling, but they're stopping new orders for now. But we still don't know as to whether they'll be bringing them for sure. But I think they might still be. That bit I'm not sure about personally. So I guess that's yet to be seen.
Surely they've got to, because Elon in their quarterly earnings call earlier today also said that it's going to be possibly the best product Tesla's ever made. So we can't miss out. And but I also understand there's no market for utes in Australia.
No, not at all. Definitely not at 7 a.m. in the morning. Definitely not.
Given the terrain that we have in most of Australia on roads, and considering when Chris is going to be successful with the EV tax and the roads in Victoria are going to be so bad, we are going to need Cybertruck in Australia to drive on Victorian roads anyway. Because where are they going to get their money to maintain their roads from?
What if you do donuts? Is that still EV taxable? Or because sorry, shouldn't have done that. Yeah, so thanks, Gaffer, for highlighting that too. But hopefully it's clickbait. Hopefully it's just that. And it'll be coming, because I'd love to test one for sure. Thank you, Emo Joe, for another $4 there. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Oh, look at this. Sensei's asking who's correct, Tech AU or Drive. The battle is on.
Where's Jason? Is Jason here?
Jason. Sometimes he's on. I don't think I've seen him today.
Yeah.
It's a good fight. I'd love to see. But yeah.
I think clearly the driven wins.
The driven wins, yeah.
Yeah, the driven wins out of those. Yeah. Well, they're not there, but
the driven's got to win. Yeah, but drive, you're not drive.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I think that might be it for tonight. We've reached 10 o'clock. So let me just end the poll. 306 votes. Fantastic. Let's see. Drum roll, please. Results for tonight's poll. Let's have a look. So tonight's question was, when is a distance-based electric vehicle road levy appropriate? We had 4 options. Never, when EVs reach more than 50% of new car sales, when EVs reach more than 25% of new car sales, and now. I'm very surprised that now 6% of you said now. Surely it's a margin of error, but some people do agree that we should be taxing cars now. So, okay, fair enough. We respect your decision. 12% of you said when EVs reach more than 25% of new car sales. Okay. 30% of you said when it reaches more than 50% of new car sales. And half of you, 50%, said never. Never ever should we tax electric vehicles. Okay. So that's where it lies right now. Interesting. I wonder what that would look like when we do reach about 25% of electric vehicle uptake in this country. I should probably screenshot this poll and compare it in Fuse time. All right, guys. Is there anything else you want to add finally before we wrap up?
All good. It's going to be very exciting with the new deliveries coming into Australia for the for the Teslas, hopefully the BYDs are not too far behind them, and the MGs will follow soon as well. So the rest of the year is going to be exciting for EV uptake.
Indeed. And yes, Gaffer's reminded me, Chris will be adding, I'll be adding Chris's pledge page later on after this stream. And as we've mentioned, it's, legal costs are not cheap. So if you want to help support Chris in this challenge, which affects all of us EV drivers, then please do so. I'm sure he'll be very appreciative of that.
Thanks, Tom.
No worries. I want to thank Chris Vanderstock of YouTube fame for joining us tonight and discussing the High Court Challenge. And good luck, from all of us. We're all behind you, and we'll be watching with bated breath. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Pleasure. And thanks for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. Thanks for coming on. And of course, thank you to our regulars, Mr. Raul Prasad. Thank you, Raul.
You're welcome, Tom. Just like to say, Chris's High Court Challenge, good luck with it. So much common sense in it. Obviously made sense to all of us, but hey, you're dealing with politicians. They need to grow a brain for it to make sense to them. I'd just like to add one more point that you made about Andrej Karpathy, who was head of AI. A lot of people confuse that with the head of autopilot at Tesla, which is another gentleman by the name of Ashok Eluswamy. And Karpathy was on, I think, gardening leave for about 3 months before he handed his resignation papers anyway. I think Tesla just has that ability, or Elon has that way of dealing with people. They just tend to move on. They just cannot handle his, persona for so long. But I think Tesla's in good hands. There's always been good teams. And I think AI and autopilot will both do well moving forward.
Yep, perfect. I mean, 5 years is a long tenure anyway, at any job these days. So, no, he's done well. Thanks for clarifying that, Rahul. And thank you, Riz from Carloop, as always, for your charts and all your contributions. Thank you, Riz.
No worries at all. Thanks, Chris. Good luck with it. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, it's going to be exciting couple of months with the way things are looking. So yeah, for those waiting for their Model Ys, hopefully you get yours, and Model 3s as well. So awesome times.
Thank you, Riz. And look, thank you everyone in the live stream chat tonight. Unbelievable engagement as always. You guys and girls are legends. We do read every single comment actually as they pop up. So yeah, rest assured, trying and engage as well if we can. But thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, let's roll the outro. Here we go. All right, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye for now. Happy charging.
Yeah.